Hello, everyone. My name is Alon Burstein. I am a visiting assistant professor and an Israel Institute Fellow in the Department of Political Science at the University of California, Irvine, and I am here to give you the daily update on the ongoing war between Israel and the Hamas movement. It is currently the eve of October 10th, 2023, in the United States, the morning of October 11th, 2023, in the Middle East. I will note, as I always do, if you'd like to see more information on the previous days, how the current flare-up actually started, or going back even further to the history of the Gaza Strip, Israel and Hamas, please click on the links in the first comments below, and there you'll get to other videos that discuss these things. So I'm once again going to divide this summary into aftermath of the initial attack, ongoing confrontations, and where the escalation is going, and end with some political things. Looking into the aftermath of the initial attack, while I reported yesterday that the IDF has said that there are no more Hamas infiltrators in the state of Israel, I also noted that they stated that already 4 times, each time to be surprised. In the last 24 hours, there have been no less than 4 to 5 different instances of Hamas terrorists appearing in towns and villages in the south of Israel. It is unclear at this point if these are people who came in the initial attack and have been hiding since then, or if these are new infiltrations that are happening. 2 Hamas terrorists were killed in the town of Sderot, 1 in Re'im, and there were other encounters in Zikim and in Ashkelon. So this is an ongoing issue. The IDF has changed its statement from it has purged the entire area to it has purged most of the infiltrators. Currently unclear. Right now, the IDF again is stating that it looks like it's purged the area. These are possibly new infiltrations coming in from attack tunnels. It is currently unclear. At the same time, the horrors of the initial massacres are continuing to be unveiled. This was seen today in several instances where reporters were allowed into towns where their entire villages have been wiped out. In some cases, small villages in kibbutzim finding over 100 bodies. Reporters have started reporting from the scenes. The death toll in Israel by now has risen to over 1,000. It is starting to be a little unclear to see who was killed in the initial attack and who has been killed since then in ongoing military operations, but the death toll is now well over 1,000, which means that this one attack, has killed more people than the entire 5 years of the Second Intifada between the years 2000 and 2005. In terms of the scale of the attack, Israel is said to have recovered so far, or is expecting to recover, no less than 1,500 bodies of Hamas militants. This means that the scale of the attack, what happened initially, was much larger than anyone considered, and this is going to continue unfolding. I am now moving on to the ongoing fighting, what is happening, starting from the Gaza Strip. Israel is continuing to amass its forces around the Gaza Strip. It has called up over 350,000 reservists, and they are currently being armed. Logistical plans are being made for what is expected to be an upcoming ground invasion. Meanwhile, Israel has been carrying out bombings from the sky. Those bombings are targeting strategic locations and the homes of Hamas officials. Israel has carried out well over 2,500 attacks from the air into the Gaza Strip. The reports right now are roughly 925 Palestinians that have been killed and over 260,000 that have been internally displaced within the area of the Gaza Strip. Among these attacks, a noteworthy one is the attack against the home of Mohammed Def. This is the chief of staff, so to speak, of the Hamas movement, and he is really the architect of most of Hamas's violence. Israel has tried to assassinate him several times in the past, killing many of his family members, but never him. He's known as a person with 9 lives. In this instance, yet again, his brother was killed. Several different family members of his brother were also killed. Def himself does not seem to have been at the home at the time. Meanwhile, Hamas continues to launch rockets into southern Israel primarily. Barrages are very ongoing. There have been some launches also into the center of the country, more into the Gush Dan area, but much less in the last 24 hours. Most of the fighting appears to be, as far as Hamas is concerned right now, in the southern area of Israel. There have also been 2 noteworthy attempts of terror attacks on the ground. One was a Hamas attempt to storm the Erez crossing, that's the north of Gaza, and another, not by Hamas necessarily, but another altercation occurred in the West Bank with terrorists attempting to fire on an IDF outpost. In both cases, there's no real damage on the Israeli side. and the attackers were shot dead. Moving on to the north of Israel, there are two noteworthy instances that happened today. One was a barrage of 15 rockets that came from Lebanon into the town of Shlomi in the north of Israel. Israel retaliated against the launch sites and other Hezbollah targets. It is unclear if this was Hezbollah at the time. Another noteworthy development was a mortar fire attack that occurred from Syria into northern Israel. This is noteworthy because until now, Syria, the Syrian border, has not been part of the fray. Now, these mortar fires are not being launched by the Syrian army. They're being launched by organizations in southern Syria. Israel retaliated with firing artillery into Syria against these targets, but right now it remains to be seen if that is a potential new front that will open. Hezbollah, for its part, has published a video in which it shows its attackers trying to shoot anti-tank missile against the Israeli APC. This is likely from 2 days ago. It is unclear, but it has not had any major activity today other than those mortar fires. Moving on to the political developments that have occurred. President Biden of the United States made an impassioned speech of support for Israel. Within his speech, he talked about comparing Hamas and the violence to ISIS and the violence that the United States was fighting. It said that any state would now retaliate with overwhelming force. He also mentioned that in his frequent conversations with Prime Minister Netanyahu, he has repeatedly stressed the need for democratic countries to uphold the rules of war to the extent possible, and to avoid harming innocent civilians whenever possible. So this is sort of this ongoing conversation between the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Israel. The United States has already sent one aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, and is now considering sending another U.S. carrier into the area in order to support Israel, but primarily in order to threaten other actors from joining the fray. The United States has explicitly threatened Hezbollah and Iran, saying that anyone else who enters into the fight is going to receive retaliation from the United States, and that the United States would specifically target the Assad regime as well. And this second aircraft carrier is supposed to bolster that threat. However, at the same time, in the last 24 hours, two different actors have also entered the fray. In Iraq, very heavily armed militias have stated that if the United States enters the conflict now, these Iraqi militias are going to start attacking U.S. targets in the Middle East, and the Houthi group in Yemen, which is backed by Iran, stated the same thing, that if the United States makes good on its threat, so if another area, another actor, another region all of a sudden enters into the fray, such as Hezbollah from Lebanon, and the United States retaliates against it, these two actors from different parts of the Middle East, from Iraq and Yemen, are saying that they will then attack the United States, which obviously gets us into a whole other regional war area. And finally, in Israel, there are still continuous talks of a unity government, which is something that would be very helpful for the Netanyahu regime in order to have internal cohesion if a ground invasion should happen. There was supposed to be a high-level meeting between Netanyahu and one of the opposition leaders, Benny Gantz, earlier today. It was mysteriously postponed until tomorrow. It is currently unclear. Both sides are saying that they are willing, but it's internally in Netanyahu's internal coalition. There are all kinds of complications, specifically from the Minister of National Security, Tamar Ben-Gvir, who is against the unity government unless there are certain conditions that are holding this back. That is our summary for today, and I will be back tomorrow.